Welcome to Every Mom is an Athlete, the podcast where we believe motherhood is inherently athletic. From lifting car seats to chasing toddlers, your daily life is a workout. I'm Dr. Karlie, pregnancy and postpartum expert, sports chiropractor, strength coach, and mom of three. This is your space for strength, recovery, and real talk in pregnancy, postpartum, and motherhood. Welcome, Strong Moms. You're in the right place. Welcome back, Strong Moms. Today, we are going to start our new series, Postpartum Pains. And we're going to start with tailbone pain after birth, or really any time after you've had your baby, even if it's years later. If you're currently pregnant, go ahead and go back. I did do a whole series on pregnancy pains that will be really helpful for you. And then make sure to save these for after you have your baby. I love doing these series because these are some of the things that I love helping my patients in my office with, as well as online consults. I love helping moms figure out why these pains are happening and how to get rid of them, how to feel better, because it really just hurts my heart so much when women think that they have to deal with this stuff during pregnancy, during early postpartum, and really throughout their whole postpartum experience. Remember, postpartum is forever. It's not just like over because you're a year or two out of having your baby. Your body is forever changed. So when I hear things like, oh, my tailbone's always hurt since I had my baby, or of course I pee when I laugh or sneeze because I had a baby, I'm like, no, there's so much we can do. So that's what we're going to focus on for this next series, 5 or 6 episodes. We'll see how many we need to do with all these different pains that appear. But today, again, we're going to start about tailbone pain. I feel like no one warns you about this after having a baby, that you might have tailbone pain. You could feel like you're sitting on a rock, that it's just super uncomfortable and you can't find a good position to sit in. Also, I hear from moms that getting up, the transitional move from a chair to standing up is really painful. And so let's talk about why that happens, when it's normal versus when it's not, and what we can actually do to help you get out of this pain. And before we get going too much, just know that if you need extra help, if you're dealing with any of these issues, feel free to reach out. I love doing online consults and just helping walk through your actual specific problem. I also have a digital product that you can buy that walks you through all of these things. So any kind of pelvic pain, sciatica, basically tells you how to reset your hips at home, what mobility to do, what strengthening to do, and just walks you through step by step for each complaint. So if you need personalized help, I'll put the links below. All that being said, let's get into it. Let's start with a quick anatomy lesson just so that we're all on the same page. So your coccyx is the very tiniest little pointy part at the bottom of your tailbone or your sacrum. Okay, so sacrum is kind of this triangle-shaped bone that is right in between your hip bone, so right at the bottom of your spine. It's the very last bone in your spine. And then the coccyx, like I said, is that kind of pointy little part that is the very lowest part of your spine. So it connects to the pelvic floor muscles. There's ligaments all through there. And then all of the glutes connect right into there as well. So it's literally supporting the system for your entire pelvic floor. And so you can understand why birth puts a lot of pressure through this entire structure. So why does tailbone pain happen though? So it could happen during delivery, right? So the baby's head could be putting pressure against your coccyx, that very last little part of the tailbone. This is especially common if you have a really long pushing stage, if your baby is really big, or if they used forceps or vacuum. These can all be kind of reasons that you might have extra irritation of the tailbone. The coccyx also is meant to move slightly during birth. So, obviously your entire pelvis, because of the relaxant and everything that's there, is moving, and that's how the baby gets out, right? So the coccyx is supposed to move out of the way, but sometimes it moves out of the way a little bit too much. So this can cause bruising, this can cause inflammation, and because each joint moves individually, this can also cause joint restriction. So just like any other joint in your spine that you might, if you've been to a chiropractor that you've had adjusted, you might need that same sort of thing on the coccyx because it is a joint in the spine that moves. Another reason for tailbone pain could be because of pelvic floor tension. A few episodes I talked with Dr. Stephanie Ridgway, who's a pelvic floor PT, and she actually talked about this a little bit. She was saying before she did pelvic floor work, she had this just really bad, horrible tailbone pain. And even as a PT, she wasn't really because she hadn't done all the training yet, she wasn't really aware that your pelvic floor being super tight could be causing that pain, which it makes sense, right? If my bicep, for example, is really, really tight and contracted, it could cause me shoulder pain, right? And so it's well, it's not an actual problem with my shoulder joint per se, but it's because this bicep, this tight muscle is cranking on it all the time that now I'm having shoulder pain. So same thing with the pelvic floor, because the pelvic floor is just made up of a bunch of muscles, right? That are all in these layers and connecting into your tailbone. That can also be a reason that you feel pulling or pain in your tailbone. I also like to remind moms that when you are newly postpartum, you are sitting so much more than you're generally used to. At least if you're a super active mom, like I just remember with my first son being like, wow, I am sitting on my butt so much. And I did get some tailbone pain. And that's when I sort of realized, and now I coach other moms through, like, you've got to switch your sitting position. You've got to switch the area where you're sitting. That's why I love women to have an exercise ball, like one of those big balls. A, you can use it through labor and like late pregnancy. It's so great to just like get your hips moving. B, did I say A, B, 1, 2, 3? I don't know. Babies love to be bounced on them generally. So that's like a nice way to just kind of like soothe a fussy baby. But C, it's great to just have that kind of cushiony ball to sit on to alleviate some of the tailbone pressure. So I always recommend sitting in different chairs, sitting in different positions, making sure that your low back is supported. We end up so often during pregnancy kind of slumping forward. And so if you think about that, what that's going to do is tuck your tailbone even more underneath your glutes and put more pressure on it, right? Whereas if you sit up tall and you have a little support in your low back, that's going to keep your tailbone more in that like upright position and not so much pressure on it. The most common thing I hear from moms is pain with sitting. And then, like I said earlier, kind of like sitting to standing, that transition. Also pain with leaning back. Again, same reason as I was just explaining, that tailbone gets tucked under you more than normal. And also some discomfort during bowel movements, right? Because again, there's some pushing and pressure kind of right along that area. So again, this is very common, but it's rarely talked about. And it is one of those things that there's a lot that we can do, but we actually have to know what to do, right? So the biggest things, the easiest things, like I said, are working on the posture, right? Making sure that you're sitting up tall, changing your position. You can lean forward slightly. That'll put you more up like on your sits bones rather than leaning back and like slumping. Like think of like a really cozy, comfortable couch, how you kind of slump back into it. Well, horrible for your tailbone. The other thing you can do is if it is really irritated, you can get a cushion or one of those donut pillows. That can be really helpful just to alleviate some of the pressure short term. Obviously, it's just a tool. That's not the permanent fix. But the more you sit on it, the more it's going to irritate. So we have to at some point kind of break that inflammation cycle. And as we're talking about posture, sitting up taller, not putting that pressure through the tailbone, I also want to remind you that newly postpartum is a great time to also be doing some diaphragmatic breathing. So that 360 breathing all the way around, what that's going to do is it's going to engage that diaphragm, your main breathing muscle, which has been like so crammed up under your ribs with that baby in there. It needs to come out, expand, and it moves directly parallel with your pelvic floor. So as you breathe in, your diaphragm, your pelvic floor move down. As you breathe out, they both move up together. And so doing some gentle breathing exercises can be really important when we're talking about this issue with the tailbone, again, because of the connection to the pelvic floor. So don't sleep on that. That's something that's like, oh, well, how is my breathing related to why like my tailbone hurts? Well, when we start to think about it anatomically, it makes sense. So trust me on this one. The other thing is gentle stretching, hip mobility, working with maybe a foam roller through your glutes, through all the muscles attaching up into the pelvis, the inner thighs. That can be really helpful as well. Now, if you have the ability to get in to see a Webster certified chiropractor or a pelvic floor PT, this can be really helpful. Some doctors in some states can do an internal coccyx mobilization if you need. Just because you have tailbone pain does not mean you necessarily need that done. And actually in Washington State, as a chiropractor, I cannot do that. But I have known in Oregon, I have known plenty of people that have needed that and had like amazing relief with it. So when it's what you need, it definitely is helpful. But there's so much you can do before having that done, especially if you're hesitant. Obviously that's a little bit invasive. But that is an option that's out there. I just want you to know about. And seeing a provider for this can actually help really quickly. So if you have been having this for a while, I would start with that, getting an in-person evaluation from a chiropractor or a pelvic floor PT. Even some massage therapists that specialize in pregnancy and postpartum might be able to help you with this a lot. So that's an option as well. Red flags. If you're having pain that lasts longer than 8 to 12 weeks, you definitely want to see your doctor. If you're having severe pain, right? Like, I'm not talking like, oh, this is a little uncomfortable, but like 7, 8, 9 out of 10 on a pain scale, for sure you need to see your doctor. If you're having any numbness or tingling or weakness or anything like that in your legs, definitely get in and see your doctor right away, because that could be signaling more of like a nerve issue that you might be having. And so those are things that you just would want to be on the lookout for. Those are like, yeah, you got to get in and get some help with this. If pelvic pain is something that you're struggling with, this is exactly why I created my pelvic pain fix plan. Say that 5 times fast. I'll put the link below. But again, it is a concise plan to walk you through exactly what you need to help resolve some of these issues at home on your own. All right, Strong Moms, until next time, have a wonderful week. Thanks for listening. Every Mom is an Athlete isn't just a podcast. It's a reminder that you're still the athlete you've always been. If this episode resonated with you, I'd so appreciate it if you'd share with a friend or leave a quick review. It helps more moms find the support and information they need. See you next time.